I am Justin Davidson. I am the owner operator of Davidson and Son Construction Company. We are a construction company based out in Bucks County, PA, and we specialize in bathrooms, but we also do kitchens and decks. When I was doing decks 10 years ago, if I did 30 decks a year, let's say 15 years ago, 30 decks a year, 25 were wood, 5 were composite. Okay. Composite meaning that the man-made material that doesn't decompose. Okay. So let's fast forward to now. Now, if I do those 30 decks, 25 are composite, 5 are wood. Okay, so now when it comes to decks, almost everyone's doing composite. So yes, a very popular job that we do is someone who has an existing wood deck and they want to upgrade it and they want to go composite. But here's the thing about decks is it was when it comes to decks, there's way more information than people think. Okay, so a lot of people, what happens is you go to the store, they buy the most popular material that people use in composite is Trex. That's a brand name. Okay, that's not a type of material. That's a brand name. That tends to be what people put in the most. So they say they go to Home Depot because Home Depot has Trex. They buy Trex. Some people won't do this stuff unless they install it themselves. Okay, but what they don't know is that Trex is not actually made for decks the way they used to be built. What does that mean? So a standard deck build, when you're doing your joists, are 16 inches on center. Okay. The low level Trex that you buy from Home Depot in the first few levels of Trex is actually you need 12 inches on center. So if anything goes wrong with your deck, it is not going to be warranted. So a lot of people are doing this and they don't know that they're not doing it properly because those decks need to be 12 inches on center. And actually, you're really supposed to have a Trex certified specialist install them so that you can get your warranty. And I'm actually happen to be one of those as well. Now, there's a lot of different things that people are doing now with decks that they weren't doing. And I have a few friends that do decks roofs too. And it's just so, I can tell you, so it's composite decking. It's called picture framed where you actually do the outside. So you see a finished board and you inlay the deck. There's usually a picture frame all in the deck, a lot of lights and steps. Okay. A lot of lights in the post, a lot of vinyl railings. I think vinyl railings with black spindles is probably the most popular railing that we do. Once again, the black, it goes with everything. When we put roofs on decks, people always put recessed lights in roofs. They put a ceiling fan up there. Okay. We usually put some finished soffit when we do the roof and TVs. We put a lot of TVs outside now. When people put roofs on the decks, we do a lot of TVs. We do a lot of accent wall. So people will like a privacy wall for the first 6 foot. We either put the actual decking that's on the deck and we make another wall. Some people might put the TV over there. Some people do actually fix 6 foot fencing on the first one to give themselves some privacy. You can get 6 foot fencing that matches the black with the black spindle. You can get that in fencing as well. Some of the other trends that we people always are adding electrical when they do decks now. You never just do decks. People are adding outlets and things. So a deck that we're doing, he's adding a heater on the wall, a natural gas heater, and he asked me to run a line for his barbecue. So I can run a line from your house and you just get a natural gas barbecue and you don't ever have to do anything again. You just turn it on and off as you see fit. That's not as popular. I've done a few of them, but that not a lot of people actually run the line for the barbecue. Multicolor boards in the deck. That's a big thing now. Before the decking was all one color. You might wrap it with one color and inlay with another and have a hemmingbone design and a different color. Yeah, we would do the different color deck board. That's another thing that people are doing. The white fascia and closed front steps. So before when you used to do wood decks, you used to be able to look into the steps. Now when we do steps, you always have it closed in the front with a nice white piece and white on the side of it. You know, the composite decks, I mean, they look really nice when they're done. Essentially, why people do so many composite decks is because of the maintenance. When you do a wood deck, it's every 3 years. You need to power wash it and completely redo the deck with some stain or waterproof or whatever it is. And most people don't have that kind of time. And furthermore, they don't enjoy it. All right. So the time that they do have, they don't want to do that. So when you get one of these composite decks, the most you're going to do is a power wash and you're done. So that's one of the reasons why the composite is popular. Before when composite came out, it was over double the cost of wood decks. Now they still can be that, and it's usually like 1.5, so it's still like It's a lot more. But especially people who are a little bit younger and older. So when people who are younger, they're thinking of it like, hey, I'm 25 years old. I'm getting this deck. I'm staying in this house for the next 20 years. For the next 20 years, I have no maintenance. And someone who's older is, hey, I got 10 more years of my life deck. 10 more years of my life. I'm going to get this deck and I'm not going to have to do anything for it. And so it's not that there's an advantage to getting the deck because of the fact of the maintenance. The maintenance is easy. One of the things that people do, that a lot of people are doing if they don't do a roof over the deck, is a waterproof system under the deck. Now they make like Trex itself makes a professional waterproof system that we have used many times, but not everybody wants to pay for that system because it's super expensive. Yeah, and then I came up with a way which is like a budget system, and it has you put like a metal roofing on an angle down to a gutter. And we do a bunch of flashing so that when it rains and it hits the deck, it hits the what's below, and the place below the deck is waterproof. And so you essentially are adding a lot of space to your house because you can sit outside when it rains when you do that. So yeah, that's one of those are the few things that I've been seeing like a lot of. So something that I do, it's not trendy, but something that I do is that most decks are about 20 foot wide, right? When you come to a 20-foot deck, you're always going to see 3 posts. I don't like 3 posts. When I do decks, it's always 2 posts, and I always use a structural beam, and they prove structural beam so that you can get rid of that one in the middle. And when you get rid of that one in the middle, it really changes everything for you when you're looking out there, especially if you're going to do like the waterproofing underneath. But then you have a better view and it's not cut off by that post in the middle. I say composite is probably the number one trend that they're out there now. So there is other options, right? Other than there's different kinds of brands and there's different kinds of Trex. There's composite. There is like a composite is not something that you would put down at a shore point on the beach, right? So you would put something that's made out of like a plastic, not a composite, because they actually have ones that are made out of plastic and they're wrapped in vinyl. Okay, you would do something like that at like a shore point or somewhere where you're going to be in water, like a lot of water. The composite's really basically for like your rain, snow, basic areas, not salt water on the bay, none of that, because what they found out with composite decks is that the first generation of composite decks that they invented, they came out with, they said they last forever, but you can't create time in the lab. So what they found out is they don't last forever because the composite breaks down with rain over time. So now what they do is if when you can get a composite deck, almost all composite decks are wrapped in a vinyl. Okay. So that vinyl is the protecting coat. So a lot of the lower end Trex, they're only half wrapped with the vinyl, meaning is they're wrapped on the top side and then under the belly, but everything underneath is completely exposed. So you don't want to be in the area where it's high water concentration because it's not fully wrapped in vinyl. Now, if you were going to go to like the beach there, you want a solid plastic deck, fully wrapped in vinyl, not halfway. You want it all the way around. And there's a lot of brands that actually do that. And something from before that when we redo decks, something I think I should mention is a lot of people don't know this, and this is going to sound weird. So when I go to redo a deck, I always ask someone, when was your deck? Do you know when your deck was built? They tell me something like 1980 and the deck's off the ground, right? I can almost guarantee you the framing's fine. Almost guaranteed the framing's fine. It's not going to be rotted. It's going to be okay. Now, if you tell me that your deck was done within the last 15 years, I'm going to check the frame. And it's highly likely that you can have rot. And here's why. Because what had happened is they changed how they did pressure treat it in the early 2000s, right? So they changed the whole system of pressure treat it. And the first few batches that they did weren't great. And now, even when you get pressure treated wood, it says it right on it, not for contact of the ground. So before, when you bought pressure treated, it didn't say that. It was for in contact, and a lot of people don't know this. That if you're actually going to get it like touch the ground, that regular pressure treat is not enough. You need more. There's another level at that for direct ground contact that you can't buy at Home Depot. They don't have it. So the range of cost for a deck, if you're redoing a deck, I would say you're going to spend a minimum 7 grand if you're getting composite. Okay, composite's just it's just if you're doing wood, if you're redoing and you're installing wood, you could probably get it for 5. All right, but if it's composite, you're going to spend 7. It's just how it is. If you're getting a brand new deck, you're generally so the basic size deck, the most popular size deck we do is 12 by 20, 12 out from the house, 20 wide. So that deck there costs usually somewhere in the range of, let's say, 13 to 16,000 generally. Then and depending on what area that you're in. So the area that I'm in, I have to. So when you're putting a deck in, you're usually putting on the side of a house and there's not a door, right? So you have to make a door. So the area that I'm in, that we do a lot of decks in, it's a brick wall with cinder block, and so it's a lot of work. So that's an extra cost that you have to think about as well, because once you do your deck, you got to put a door to it, because if there wasn't a deck there, then there's definitely not a door to it. And then that's a whole other thing. The door is, so that's something that we could go over with, like the first time I come out and I look at everything. I ask you how big of a deck do you want? What kind of a deck do you want? What material? I'll go through some of the stuff that I just told you about, the different materials and what they're used for. I'll mention cedar just so people know it's an option, even though a lot of people don't do it. But so cedar is actually one of my favorites, just a side note, because you don't have to finish it as much. It holds up longer than pressure treated, and it's real light, right? It's not heavy. So it doesn't put a lot of extra weight on the deck, and it looks pretty, especially for getting like a roof. I see, like we do a lot of decks with roofs, and people are composite. You don't want to need a composite when you have a roof, because you have a roof. So that would be a good time to put actually cedar or something like that, if you want that natural look and not the man-made look. Because a lot of people do love there. You cannot replace the warm look of wood. It's not the same when you get composite. It looks shiny and new and it's nice, but it's not wood. When I first come out, I got the process is I ask you about how big of a deck. We go to the area, I see where you want the deck. I usually check on the inside to see how I'm attaching the deck. And then we'll go through what kind of deck do you want to do, and then what kind of railing system. So there's a lot of railing systems, right? Now the most popular we do is a white vinyl with the black spindle, but they have a lot of different railing systems. There's too many to mention for sure. And we go through some of the railing systems. Then we talk about wraps on the outside, the white fascia. That's an option a lot of people like to do, or they have matching fascia for other kinds of decks. And people, because they don't want to see the wood wrapped around. Some people want the beams, the 6x6s, all that stuff wrapped. We go through all that. We talk about steps. Steps are a pretty big cost. A lot of people don't get them. 2 reasons: because it's a big cost, and for 2, it depends on what kind of house. If you have a single house, people get steps. When you have a row home, people don't get steps a lot. That's usually how it works. And then once we talk about that, we'll talk about exactly where you want your door, what kind of door you want, because there's a lot of door options, right? We can put a door in an existing opening, or maybe you have a little window there and you want a big sliding door. We can do that too. So we go through all the options. So a lot of people, the most popular door when it comes to decks is a sliding door, and I'll tell you why. And this is the only reason why people do sliding doors for decks. This is a space saver. That's it. Because when you put a regular door, and you don't think about the swing, you have to have the clearance of the swing of the door. When you're putting a deck, it's usually attached to the living room or a dining room or a kitchen, and you don't have the space to swing the door. So that's why people get sliding doors on decks so much. That's why you see them so much. It's just a space saver. And then once you figure all that out, I send you a link for colors, because if you're getting composite, you have a lot to choose from. There like when I first started, there was like 4 colors. Now there's 25. Easy. There's all kinds of brands. And there are so much to choose from. The options are really limitless when it comes to the composite decking. I could probably, if you really want to, show you 50 different colors. And once we work out all the colors and all that, we set up a date. And then after that, day 1, we show up. But the whole process is day 1, and we usually put the ledger board up. We dig the holes. We put the concrete in. Day 2 is we put the post up. We frame the whole entire deck. Day 3 is we start decking. Day 4 is the railing. Day 5, we start the door. Day 6, everything's done. I have different guys that work for me. So the guys that do decks don't do bathrooms. That's all they do. They do deck after decade. That's all they do. There's 80 bathrooms that I'm telling you about. It's between two crews. That's all they do is bathrooms. That's it. That's it. So we have it down to a science. I don't try to like make one guy great at everything. I find out what people are good at, and I just that's what you do.